The acquisition of Cloudways by DigitalOcean stirred up quite a few conversations about how challenging it can be to migrate websites to a new server or platform. Justin Korn shared a fantastic post on the admin bar explaining how he uses CNAME Flattening to manage all that mess. I've been using CNAME Flattening for a long time in pretty much the same way he described, and I was surprised to see that this concept was new to so many people. A text write-up of CNAME Flattening can get a little complicated, so I thought I'd do a quick video to help describe it. This video does assume that you have a basic understanding of DNS concepts. If you need a refresher, you can visit my website for a refresher video and a blog post called Domains and DNS Definitely Demystified that lays the foundation for you. I'll post a link to that in the description of this video. The problem really comes down to the fact that we manage a lot of websites, and all of those websites have their own individual set of DNS servers and DNS records. We also might not have access to all the DNS servers. A lot of times clients will manage them themselves, or they'll have their IT departments handle it for them. Moving websites between servers can also be a logistical nightmare for all of us. A simple solution to all of this is called CNAME Flattening. Some other places call it A-names or aliases, but really what it does is it lets us use a CNAME to get the root IP addresses from a different domain. That lets us control all the client host records from a domain that we control, and it allows the clients to maintain the control over their own DNS servers while you manage the website-related records in your own servers. For this to work though, both your DNS server and the client DNS server have to support this. Some of the big name DNS servers that do support it are Cloudflare, DNS Made Easy, DNS Simple, EasyDNS, and Amazon. Unfortunately, places like GoDaddy Domains and Google Domains do not support it. If you're interested in the technology behind all of this, there's some great resources out there. Cloudflare has a blog post called Introducing CNAME Flattening, and DNS Made Easy has a blog post called How Does CNAME Flattening Work? I definitely recommend checking both of those out. So to set this up, you would need to do things on both your server and the client server. On your server, you start by creating a dummy domain, something like myagencyrecords.net, and this is what's going to hold all the records for your clients and for your servers. You'll create a name which are host records for your servers, so things like server1.myagencyrecords.net will point to 135, 148, 47, 71, etc., etc. Then you would create CNAME alias records for each of your client sites. Something like client1 would point to server1.myagencyrecords.net, client2.myagencyrecords.net would point to server1.myagencyrecords.net, etc., etc., until you have all of your clients on there pointed to the CNAME records for all of your servers. On the client side, you want to make sure that you delete the A record for the root domain, so client1.com would be deleted. Then you would create a new CNAME record for that root domain, and you'd point the CNAME to the client record that you created on your server. So for example, you might point client1.com to client1.myagencyrecords.net. Look very carefully though that I'm pointing that CNAME record to the client record on my server, not the server record, and I'll get to that in a minute. Last thing you want to do is make sure that the www CNAME record points to the root domain. This just keeps you from having to manage yet another record, since 9 times out of 10 that www CNAME is going to go to the same place as the root domain. So let's see how all this works in practice. We start off by wanting to go to client1.com. Client1's DNS server is going to respond that says, hey, I see a CNAME record for client1.com. It points to client1.myagencyrecords.net. Let's get you an IP address for that. Then that client1 DNS server says, hey, myagencyrecords.net. What's the IP address for client1.myagencyrecords.net? The myagencyrecords DNS server comes back and says, cool, I have a CNAME for this, and it points to server1.myagencyrecords.net. And that IP address for server 1 is 135.148.47.71. Client 1's DNS server then gets that IP address and says, awesome, I got that. And it tells the client, hey, I talked to everybody, and here's the IP address you're looking for. Put another way, to get the IP address for client1.com, you'll start off by getting that CNAME for client1.myagencyrecords.net. That CNAME points to another CNAME for server1.myagencyrecords.net. And that server CNAME points to an A record that says 135.148.47.71. The CNAME flattening process just flattens all those steps so that client 1 can get that IP address of 135.148.47.71. Then for the next part of that, to resolve the www, you're just getting that CNAME record for www, and it's saying, hey, the IP address for this is the same thing as the IP address for the root domain. So here's a few questions and answers about the whole thing. First question is, can I just point the CNAME to the A record from myagencyrecords.net, so we're pointing straight to the server? Yeah, you can do that, and it's going to work just fine. The downside is that you're going to have a bunch of A records to manage. So by creating a CNAME that points to the server, it lets you change the IP address in one place and have that reflected for all the clients that are using that server. Does this slow things down? Sort of. The performance hit of this is all negligible, especially compared to everything else that happens in a conversation. Besides, the chances are that the servers that support CNAME Flattening already are going to have most of this cached anyway. I'm getting a Cloudflare error 1014 CNAME cross-user banned. What is this? CNAME Flattening is seamless when both the client agency records are on the same Cloudflare account. If they're on different accounts, though, there are some security considerations, so you might need to get the paid Cloudflare for SaaS add-on. Does CNAME Flattening work with CDNs? You'll definitely have to check with your specific DNS servers. I've used it with DNS Made Easy and Quick.cloud, but most of my clients use Cloudflare, so I haven't really tested it with too many providers. I hope this was helpful, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can find me on the web at www.peakperformancedigital.com.